as a bootleg.
That Travis Scott song has got to be like, I don't know when Travis Scott recorded that verse or where he recorded that verse.
From the bottom of a well.
It sounds like a tin can picked up.
No, that is literally like that fucking, like, you know, he was in one treehouse and Wayne was in another treehouse, and they had like each of them had a tin can, and there was a little bit of white string, and Gutta Gutta was holding up an iPhone and had the speaker on.
It's like an iPhone like 3, like one of the early ones.
It was a flip phone. Somehow Gutta Gutta owns a flip iPhone.
Living off borrowed time, the clock ticks faster. Living off borrowed time, the clock ticks faster. Living off borrowed time, the clock ticks faster. Living off borrowed living off borrowed time, the clock ticks faster. Living off borrowed time, the clock ticks faster. Living off borrowed time, the clock ticks faster. Living off borrowed time, the clock ticks
faster. Well, we're doing a cold open. This is the Living Off Borrowed Time podcast. I don't know when I decided to pull into this, but I'm your host, Patrique McGovern, Patrique and RYM, joined as always by OptimalAudio, Caleb, and once again I botched the intro. Even when we do a cold open, I botched the intro.
Caleb on RYM, yeah.
Yes, Caleb on RYM. Look him up. Just search Caleb in the user field and you'll find him.
Yeah.
And this week we decided that, it had been a while since we've done an episode just, with the OG Living Off Borrowed Time, 2-person format, the 2-person weave. And we're going to give that to you this week with not really a formal topic, except that we've been promising for a while that we're going to do a TV supplemental, mainly about the best TV show of all time, by which, of course, I mean Vinyl on HBO. I'm sorry. The Wire. That's the one, not Vinyl on HBO. That's the second.
I watched like the first 3 episodes of Vinyl, right? Like way back in the day, like when it came out.
I was like, this is pretty much just like a documentary about the music business. It's so realistic.
I was like, this is going to be great. And then I went into it with such high expectations. And then it was like,
is Vinyl the worst HBO prestige drama?
No way. They've got to do Vinyl. To me, Vinyl was just super mid.
No, Vinyl was bad. Like, if you actually think about what Vinyl could have and should have been and what it was, Vinyl was horrible. I mean, I think John from Cincinnati is probably the worst work. Well, no, it's not the worst. John from Cincinnati was the most misguided.
All right, hold on. I'm looking.
Okay, yeah, we need to like
HBO program. I just want to say right now, this is relevant because I know you haven't seen the first season, but Euphoria was announced. It's coming back for a second season shortly, sometime this year.
I did want to check that, and that's on my list.
That is a show that I was really intrigued by, and I was on it. I watched it live, like during its run, and it was really good. It actually impressed me because it was directed by who did the show? Well, for one, it's shot in a way that is better than like 95% of TV because it actually looks like a movie.
Well, it's not TV; it's HBO.
Oh, yeah. The HBO marketing team hitting you right there. No, what is
They don't do that. They don't say that anymore because I think eventually people made fun of it so much they just like kind of quietly killed that one. But
all right, so Sam Levinson is who directed it. Who is kind of like I think he did something else that was like, so I'm not sure. I was like worried about it. Oh no, he's the son of Barry Levinson, so I was naturally scared.
Like nepotism, yeah. Like this
right, I was naturally like, this guy's not going to be good. But yeah, he had directed a movie that came out a couple years ago called Assassination Nation, which is a pretty fun, kind of trashy movie. it's about like these girls in like the zombie apocalypse or something. Like their town just turns into like the zombie apocalypse, and they have to like fight their way out. It's like a fun movie. But yeah, so I was like, okay, so the show's gonna look good because the trailer looked amazing. So I was like, all right, the show's gonna look good, but I don't know how he's gonna like deal with these characters because it's basically like a modern day like Skins, essentially, where it's like following high school students and it's like drugs and identity issues.
Yeah,
and
it kind of reminded me of from the advertising of that film. What's it called? American Honey, or the one with Shia LaBeouf. And
yeah, American Honey.
Yeah, which was a better movie than I expected, and
Really
I
good
ended up getting into a fight with my wife about. At the very end, they use a song that I was like, "This song is great and it's perfect for the scene. I need to look it up." And she looked it up, and she's like, "Oh, it's by this guy Rory." I'm like, "No, it's not. This is a good song. It's not by Rory. It is not by fucking Rory." Like,
did you listen to it and did you eat Harvest Sun Chips while you were listening to it? Did you eat? Yeah. Did you eat? And I'm prefacing this by saying I do like this snack, but did you eat some nice wheat thins while listening to it? Some Triscuits?
Yes, I ate unflavored Triscuits, and I washed them down with a cool, refreshing Mike's Hard Lemonade.
You ate Triscuits, and you took the little grains of salt off the Triscuits before you ate them?
Yeah, actually, not a Mike's Hard Lemonade. I took it back. I drank a Zima. Because Mike's Hard Lemonade was way too flavorful for a Rory song.
All right, now you're getting into, like, even I think that's fucking terrible.
Yeah, they actually, I mean, Zima was actually, like, that had to be, like, the most ironic branding shit, because Zima was, like, shorthand for, like, dumb 90s, like, that was a failure. Like, that wasn't a punchline on arrival. That was, like, when Coke came out with, like, a fruit juice called Fruitopia, as, like, oh, we're rebranding as healthy. And then people are like, "You're Coke. Why are you doing anything?"
Yeah,
and that's
right.
way more unhealthy than your soda.
Isn't that typically how it goes, though? Because they have to jack it up with a bunch of, like, high fructose shit, right? That's the whole...
Yeah. There's a great gag on The Simpsons where there's, like, they do, like, a fake commercial and you don't see what's going on. You just hear, like, like, noises of, like, hippies. It's like, Fruitopia, the fruit juice made by hippies and marketed by a heartless, crass, like, multinational corporation.
Oh my god!
Like, I don't know why Zima had to come back. Like, that was definitely somebody was like, "Oh, the kids are talking about this on the Twitters and the 4chans, and there's a real like cross demographic appeal to this, so we're gonna bring it back like Szechuan sauce, or I don't know, some like 50-year-old who does not understand things being made fun of on the internet brought that back. Because I remember it being back, like cases of it being at the beer distributor for like 1 week, and then it was gone. And I don't think it was because it was selling so well.
Jesus Christ. Well, I think on the to finish my thought on Euphoria, because I am going to recommend it to you, because I think it surprised me with the care that the show had for its characters, even the empathy that it has for some of the characters that are total pieces of shit, but there are arcs to each character that, for the most part, I think for the vast majority of the characters, the arcs are there where it's not just like, because there was the fear of, and I'm forgetting the word, but just because the whole thing is like, a bad version of the show is like teenagers and sex and drugs and look at society, like, it's that sort of like preachy shit.
Think of the children after
right.
special,
or it's like, or it's something like Kids.
Where it's just exploitative. Look at these kids being bad, like, yeah.
But I think it's not that. I think there's a real, and I think Zendaya kills it, and there's a real like level of empathy for her character and for the character of Jules, who's her friend in the show. And my favorite episode of the show, I think, is, well, the episode's called Shook Ones Part 2, which is funny.
I mean, you already have me there.
You already have, yeah. But my favorite episode of the show is that episode, and it opens with a scene in a mental hospital, and I'm just telling you right now that scene, I had to pause the show. I had to pause the show.
You had to pull like a Sam Cedar pause it moment.
Yeah, I had to pause the show. I quite literally walked out of the room. This is a little hyperbole, but I genuinely walked out of the room because I was so like engrossed, but also repulsed at this scene. That's like such a real thing. And then I went back and watched the episode, and I mean, yeah, so it's the 4th episode of the first season. It's a great episode. There's a absolutely bone-chilling scene in the first 5 minutes that will make your skin crawl, but it's effective. Yeah.
I will put it on the list right now. The list is either the next drama we're getting to. The problem is things have been so. I mean, I hate to be one of those people. Oh, I'm so busy lately. Well, don't. But
I'm the same way.
Ever move from an apartment to a house because that will make you fucking way busier than you ever thought you had to be. But I haven't really had the emotional to borrow from True Detective Season 2, one of the things that I will defend on this episode that I'm sure you're going to disagree with me on, but that most people disagree with me on, by the way. I don't have the bandwidth to devote to. That's something Vince Vaughn's character says in one of his more laughable fucking deliveries. Yeah. To devote to a drama. But my wife and I have been meaning to get to The Sopranos because she's never seen it. And I've never watched it in full more than once. Like, I watched it as it was on, and I took small breaks. But I saw it pretty much beginning to end as it aired. And neither of us have ever seen Deadwood. And I need to get to Deadwood, for sure.
I have seen Deadwood. I haven't seen the movie, which allegedly is just a continuation of the 3rd season. I don't know exactly. I'm pretty sure my memory serves me correctly. That's what I heard about it when it came. But it came out like 2 years ago now. And I just have been forgetting just to get around to it.
By all accounts, Deadwood is one of the most well-written things ever. I saw bits and pieces of it because my mom was obsessed with the show. And, I mean, that was part of the reason I didn't get to it for so long is because my mom has pretty terrible taste in things. Like, one of the
as we know.
Yes. One of the few, like, she loved fucking Everybody Loves Raymond, one of her favorite shows. There you go.
It's a tough look. It's a tough look. She
Never
was
a good look.
She was big into that's what I call the 5 to 6 p.m. window on channel My 9. If anyone has ever been in the New York area, channel My 9 was like in between the like PBSs and then like the Fox, CBS, ABC. It would be that channel, and sometimes they would have baseball games on at like 7. So when I was younger, it would be like 6:30, and I'd go and like see if I could watch like the Met game on that channel, and it would either be like King of Queens or Everybody Loves Raymond be playing on that channel at that time.
Well, they put together like Full House and Family Matters. They were just like sister shows.
Yeah, and that channel.
My mom loved King of Queens even more than fucking Raymond. Like, the King of Queens wasn't King of Queens; it was the King. You want to watch the King? Fuck no, I don't want to watch the King. Like, are you kidding me? Like, the only good thing about King of Queens was that Patton Oswalt got paid off of it. That was it.
True. And
Jerry Stiller. Jerry Stiller was actually great on that show. But rest in peace. But yeah, I was actually going to say we can go through here the wiki list of HBO dramas real quick and do maybe like a lightning round.
Yeah, I'm on it right now. Yeah.
Yeah, let me bring that back up. I'm doing this all from my phone, from my empty apartment right now.
Well, do you want to do the current stuff that we've seen? We've both seen Westworld.
Yeah. Oh, I've seen much less current than I have prior.
Overall, right. That's why I was going to knock out the current stuff.
Yeah, we can knock out current. Okay, so as far as the current stuff, I've only seen Westworld, and I'm looking at all these. We covered before it already.
Westworld season 2 might be the most confusing season of television that exists.
Yeah, you want to talk about confusing? The only episode of season 2 I saw was the finale.
Look, it's kind of like impressive in its audacity, but also you're just like, you don't have to be good to be. You don't have to be convoluted to be good. It's kind of
or to take that point and kind of flip it a little bit. Being convoluted doesn't make you good.
Right.
Cannabis isn't the best rapper of all time. That fucking Ziggurat Association album or whatever that Wyatt loves is a bad album. It's not good just because it doesn't make sense. Fucking, I got 5 episodes into the first season of Westworld, and all I really got out of it was Chris Nolan can't write dialogue, or this is fake ass bad Chris Nolan dialogue, and why would you want to emulate Chris Nolan dialogue? Ed Harris is a really, really good actor. Yeah. It's pretty. I'm getting nothing out of this. I gotta stop. It's starting to get really
I liked season 1. Season 2 kind of lost me in the sense that, well, to your point about Nolan, it's written by Nolan's brother.
Yes.
Yeah. So it is kind of like, 66% Chris Nolan, if that makes sense.
It really felt a lot like I was watching Inception or something during some of the dialogue scenes. And at first I chalked it up to, well, it's sci-fi. I don't have an ear for sci-fi dialogue / sci-fi dialogue. Just doesn't work for me, or just doesn't in general. Just feels this way, and like regardless. And then I was like, this is like a very specific type of dialogue that I don't like. Like I could see an Aaron Sorkin. I could hear Aaron Sorkin dialogue or a dialogue that wants to sound like Sorkin like right away. And then I eventually realized, oh, this is Chris Nolan, and it's not as infuriating as Interstellar or something. But it still has that just unmistakable ring where this is not how humans talk. I can't listen to prolonged dialogue like this, and I can never care about these characters. Ed Harris was good. That's a testament to how good Ed Harris is, because I cared about his character. I cared about his art.
I did too. Yeah, his character, Ed Harris, was amazing in that show. But yeah, apparently there's a season either going on now or it just happened, or I don't know. There was a third season that
it has
came out or
something, yeah,
it does. And it's
I saw the trailer for it, and it's like it plays Pink Floyd, and Aaron Paul is doing weird shit and looking confused. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm not gonna.
Yeah, it's apparently set like all these years in the future. So I mean, because the thing about the seasons is they have nothing to do with each other,
right?
Allegedly. So I might watch it just because if they have nothing to do with each other, then you can go in cold to a season. It doesn't matter. So I might watch it, but. Me saying I might watch it, it's probably like a 5 on a scale of 1 to 10 in my priorities. Like maybe it might even be like lower than that,
Well, that's the thing about TV these days compared to TV. How when I was growing up, back before you were even born, is that back then TV was something that was always around, and if something was good was on, it's a bonus. Now TV is something that you have so many more options on, or at least you could, if you afford and you can always seek out something good. It's not just like something that's persistently around and you don't have options and you can find, and something good might wash up. Something being good is no longer a novelty.
Right. And I think, I guess when it comes to speaking of something being good, I'm surprised you haven't seen Succession yet.
I've heard a lot of good things. It's
a really good show. It is. I mean, I don't know if it's like greatest thing ever hype, but like in terms of the show is quite funny. And I think you would get a lot out of it because I think
it's also been when I've actually gotten the time to watch TV these days. I've been much more wanting to just watch comedies that we've already that we're catching up on.
Right.
So, and I've just been like, honestly, my entertainment diet has been mostly books and podcasts. Like podcasts.
Yeah, I've been mostly sports and music and podcasts. So yeah.
Well, music's a given, but podcasts are the sort of thing that I can actually listen to in the car or at work. So they're a lot more of a flexible medium, so it's easier to keep up with them in my everyday life. But going through the list here, I haven't seen any of the other dramas. Comedy wise, High Maintenance being still listed as active is good, because I thought that's probably a mistake, because it hasn't been around for 5 years now, and it doesn't seem like it's that much money to make. That's a really good show. It only had like a 6-episode miniseason. It's clearly tailored for me to like. It's about a weed dealer, and it's like every episode's like a fucking like. He goes to sell somebody weed, and this story of what happens. It's very low key, very dry, but very funny and insightful. Mm-hmm. It doesn't require too much of your time. I highly recommend seeking that out. No pun intended. If you have not yet, Barry, I've heard a lot of good things about, but have not yet.
Barry's good. Bill Hader, who I never disliked, but I always was like, yeah, he's cool, but like I was never like a huge fan of him. Bill Hader is phenomenal in that show. So I definitely recommend Barry. It's really funny. It's also
go ahead.
Righteous Gemstones. I saw a little bit of it. It's pretty good.
Yeah, it seems like it's way up my alley. It's like John Goodman, Danny McBride, the subject matter and everything. I heard mixed things about it, but I'll get to it eventually. I guess the two big things to discuss here are Curb, which is their longest running show by some huge margin, not counting the news stuff and sports stuff, and Insecure, I think, are the two that probably have most to say about them.
I think I haven't. You know what? I haven't seen the recent Insecure season though, so I'm.
Neither have I.
Yeah.
I actually got a little mad at Insecure in season 2, in that I felt like the stories were very repetitive. They were like hitting the same beats every episode, and there was no progression. So I kind of tuned out on it, which got to another argument with my wife, because she was super into the show and thought that I just didn't have patience for female-centric entertainment. And I was like, no, it's just that the story is just like a prolonged breakup, which I get that with Issa and Lawrence. Mm-hmm. And Molly's trouble at work, which, I mean, the problem is when I explain it, it does sound like I have no patience for female entertainment, because it's like these are very female-centric stories and they progress in a way that they do in real life. Like, it doesn't happen in one episode. A breakup happening over a whole season is much more, or the fallout from a breakup, I should say, because the breakup happens at the end of season 1. Sorry, I spoiled that. But,
right.
But on the other hand, it's an incredibly well-made show, and it's like there's stories that weren't being told elsewhere. And I think Issa Rae is fucking hysterical. I think it's super well acted. I think the music choices, shout out to Raphael Sadiq, are super on point. Like,
yeah, they're really good.
Curb is. I love Curb. I'm behind on Curb. I've not seen the last 2 seasons. I thought Curb started to fall off around. I don't know, because like he started to make, like, the thing about it is you can tell Larry David lives in like a weird bubble, which sometimes works for the show and sometimes doesn't. Like, because he's so isolated from the world that you get brilliance out of it sometimes, and you did way more right when it was coming off of Seinfeld in the beginning. I feel like it was consistently pumping out brilliant shit after brilliant shit, but then like when the seasons became more inconsistent, I felt like he had less stories to tell. But there was still always brilliant stuff. Like the formula of Curb, when it works, is one of the best comic formulas out there.
Yeah, I haven't seen Curb since it came back, but it was. I pretty much kind of agree with your take, like, wholeheartedly. I think like the first, I don't know, like 8 seasons are just consistently great, and then it kind of trails off a little bit.
The Shaq episode of Curb is one of the funniest things ever.
Gosh. Foreshadowing Shaq's TV career.
True. Yeah, I think that might have been that wasn't the first time Shaq was on TV, obviously, because Shaq was advertising shit forever, like from when he got a deal, period. Like when he got an NBA deal. But that was like the first time he really showed like actor comic timing. Like, because he did that in his movies. That's for sure.
Oh, God.
Except for Blue Chips. Well, Blue Chips, Blue
Chips deserves every rating on the spectrum of RYM ratings.
I remember I saw Blue Chips when it came out, and when I left the theater, I asked my older sister, do you think Shaq will get nominated for an Oscar for this? And I really meant that question. I was 8. But I thought Shaq did well in that movie, man. He did not want to... He thought the TV watching class was going to be just watching TV. He didn't think there were going to be tests.
It's a real... Oh, my God. I will say John Boyes did something about with this movie. I forget what. I think he did a video on it. Let me see here. Yeah, he definitely did something about the movie. Yeah, he did a YouTube video. Just
I wonder how Bobby Knight feels about Blue Chips. Because Blue Chips is pretty much fuck you, Bobby Knight, in a lot of ways.
I mean,
although it's like, it does, like, if you consider Nick Nolte's character to be Bobby Knight, though, it makes him out to be noble in a lot of ways.
I love the one review on the page. Overall, good sports drama. Best part has to be Nick Nolte going down to New Orleans and seeing Shaq kill everyone on the court.
I'm going to upvote that review. That really gets to the heart of the matter.
Apparently, I hadn't rated Blue Chips, so now I just did. I gave it the obligatory. It deserves all the ratings. I wish I could give it more than 3 stars, but I also probably could give it less. I usually.
I mean, yeah, it really. In some ways, it's a 5-star film. In other ways, it is much less than a 5-star film.
Right. So you just have to. That's what I do a lot. A movie that I usually enjoy, and I'm like, it's like The Happening. Like, The Happening is...
Yeah, I really feel like I need to revise my rating for The Happening, because I gave it a 0.5 stars, but it's really not that, because...
It probably deserves, like, a 2.5 at least. Like,
do you think that Shyamalan was trying to be deliberately bad when he made The Happening?
People... I hate the trying to be deliberately bad critique, typically.
I think that's revisionist history, because and also it makes the movie worse if you think that way, because I think that's a lazy way to make a movie.
I agree. I think that, like, there are arguments for The Happening being really interesting, but I don't.
the best assessment you can make of The Happening is that it's an interesting, complete failure. And the worst argument you can make for it is that he tried to make a campy horror movie. If it's a campy horror movie, it's boring. If it's an interesting total failure from somebody who tries to make an edgy R movie with a message, then it's at least interesting.
It does an effective job of creating a sense of panic in the viewer, I think. But then
I disagree with that entirely.
I don't know. I think
there's no way that, like, he leans on the shot of fucking trees billowing like it's Hitchcock shooting the birds that
I mean initially. I'm talking about once you reach like a third of the way through the movie, you're like, oh, that's not what this is. But in the beginning, you're like, oh, what is this? You know what I mean?
Like, go back to Curb. Give me the Larry David face right now. I don't know. Like, I felt like to me, the movie, I rate it like an Larry David face, but I kind of like I should maybe I'll watch it again. I don't know. I don't have a lot of patience for Shyamalan, like in general. Like I think no, I agree.
I think Unforgettable is his best movie. I think it's a good movie. Unbreakable. I said Unforgettable.
But
Unforgettable, same shit.
I probably agree with that. I saw Sixth Sense in theaters, and that was the classic Sixth Sense story, which is that it had a good ad campaign. No one expected it to do well. You saw it because you didn't go see the other trash that was out at the end of August in 1999, and you didn't know Bruce Willis was what he was in that movie. See, I already spoiled one thing in this episode. No one knows what what happened to Bruce Willis in The Sixth Sense. I'm not going to spoil that. But yeah, so I was fooled by that, and I thought it was really well crafted. Although, again, I don't know why we're talking about my mother so much in this podcast, but she was like, well, I watched it again, and when you know what happens, it doesn't hold up. And the only time
you're saying you agree with your mother a lot.
The only time we'll ever fucking say this on this podcast, credit to my mother, she was 100% right. It's a fucking gimmick. It doesn't hold up. Like, if you watch it with, like, it's like Pulp Fiction holds up less well, but it still holds up if you shoot it and if you play it in sequence. Like, it's still a good movie independently of. It works better when it's done the way it's done. Like, yes, that's a gimmick, but it's not entirely reliant on its gimmick. The Sixth Sense, like, because I mean, her actual assessment was this movie was boring until the end. Then, like, you find out what happened, and holy shit. And then she watched it again when it came on cable, and she was like, yeah, you know what happens. It's still boring. And then at the end, you don't have the holy shit moment. I put it better than she ever could, by the way. But, yeah, so it's like, yeah, compared to Pulp Fiction, whereas if you watch it in sequence, like, pretend you watch it in sequence before you've seen it out of sequence. It's still pretty good. And if you've seen it in sequence after you've seen it out of sequence, it gives it new context. Whereas seeing The Sixth Sense, knowing what the twist is at the end, doesn't really give it new context so much as it's just like, oh, that's a clever thing. Oh, that's a clever thing. It's not half as entertaining as watching the beginning of Too Many Cooks, like, oh, person's going to die, that person's going to die, that person's going to die. Like,
right.
Too Many Cooks is really way better crafted than The Sixth Sense. Way better use of shadows.
The Sixth Sense, like, is a fine movie, but that's where it ends for me. Well, yeah, it's fine. And that's
and then after that, so Unbreakable was unforgettable, whatever you want to call it. Really fucking good. I mean, like, in terms of, like, Bruce Willis felt like trying. Sam Jackson, when he actually has a role he wants to really give his all, does. And, like, I feel like he's somebody who, when he finds, like, a director he likes working with, like, clearly Tarantino is one of his favorites. I think that Shyamalan was somebody he liked working with, at least on that project, and he clearly liked him enough to come back to it later. Like, he got into that character. The sound design on that's really good. Like, in terms of using quiet, like, I think that movie uses quiet really well and bursts of noise really well. So I think it's aesthetically really well done. Signs, I Signs I was really excited to see in theaters, and I liked it until the twist. The twist actively ruined it for me, if you want to consider that a twist. Alien's weakness. That was some weak shit.
Yeah.
And then also, if you think about it in terms of, like, okay, Mel Gibson shoehorned a lot of Catholicism into this fucking movie. Like,
which, I mean, who couldn't see that coming, right?
Fair enough, but this was pre-Passion. Like, I mean, I knew about Mel Gibson's crazy Catholic shit pre-Passion because I went to a cult school, and they were into the Passion was like 10 years in the making. So I got to hear all the updates about it. So I knew that he was into that. But, I mean, I can imagine that it really wasn't public knowledge until the Passion started rolling out. Like, so Signs was 2003, Passion was spring 2004. So I guess this would kind of be like, but I mean, in hindsight, yes, this is the least surprising thing ever that he made like a redemptive priest story. It's supposed to be a horror movie, but it Trojan horses in like a priest finds like, that, hey, it's cool to have faith. Like, fuck out of here. And it's like got a bunch of cute kids crap in it. I don't know. The first, like, I'd say that's a movie that actually does a good job building tension in the beginning.
Signs, yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I haven't seen it in forever, but I remember pretty much having the exact same opinion as you. Like, this fucking twist. Fuck out of here. And then The Village was an even bigger fuck out of here.
Fuck The Village. Yo, fuck the fucking Village, dude. That's where I got off board. That's where I got off board. Like, that was so infuriating. That's like, okay, fucking twist. Like, that was the worst twist. That movie was such a painful waste. That movie made me mad. There have been very few movies that have made me angry when because I paid money to see that shit. Because that's a great trailer. Great trailer.
It's true, yeah.
Fun fact, my fucking, my friend, who, he's actually like 5 foot nothing. And if you remember, there's a scene in The Village where there's a kid who like stands on, like early on, who stands on this like little tree stump and he like puts his arm out like, ooh, I can touch the creepy woods, but then he like pulls away. My friend was actually, he was originally cast in that scene, but they wouldn't let him off school enough days because Shyamalan shoots his shit all around the PA area. Like Sixth Sense was all shot in Philly and stuff. So he actually was in that movie for he got like a day's work out of that, paid very well. So the catering was really good. He's embarrassed to tell that story now because The Village is so bad.
Yeah.
Because he told that story all the time when it was coming out. Like, oh, yeah, this movie's coming out. You saw the trailer for it. I was that kid. Like, there's a scene, watch for the kid. After the movie came out, he didn't tell the story anymore.
Yeah, I would avoid doing that as well.
So, yeah, that's where I got off with Shyamalan. Off board, I should say.
What a bad movie. I remember approximately nothing from Glass. I watched Glass last year. I don't remember anything from it.
Yeah, so I have nothing more to say about Shyamalan.
Well, M. Night Action. I will say After Earth is a hilariously terrible movie.
I know people have very strong, fully formed negative opinions about what he did to Avatar. I have no
very bad. Like worst of the worst kind of bad. It's pretty bad.
Everything I've heard about it makes it sound atrocious. I have no familiarity with the source material, and I have no desire to sit through it. I'll just trust the
source material. The source material is. I mean, I guess it depends on what you like, but I think it's worth your time. I think the source material is.
I've had more than one person whose opinion I trust tell me that. It's one of those things. It's like what you said, a 5 to 10 to whether I'll get to it eventually. Same
right,
thing.
Exactly.
But yeah, going through the HBO list real quick here, since of stuff we've both seen. Fuck Bill Maher forever.
True.
Why are you still on the air? Why are you still here? Like
they really let. First of all, the Bill Maher shit, and I know. Look, I personally, for a cable show, think the John Oliver show is pretty good. I mean, it's not.
Yeah,
like,
I think that
it's still too lib, but he's gotten better over the years. He had a really good episode on the police this summer that was actually like, fuck these guys, like fuck this is like it was you could feel the actual like anger and like in his voice. He had like a little monologue at the end that was basically just like fuck policing in America. So it had like a Jon Stewart feel, which is like, obviously nothing on HBO was going to be like leftist, but it was like, I think his show has gotten better over the years of like turning away from like just being rah Democrats into being like actually kind of sucks.
Yeah. I feel like real quick on John Oliver, I loved it when it first came out, but I think I was still in that mindset of, well, what's on television should just like, I still enjoyed the whole Daily Show, just mock the media as opposed to mock the media / mock the right without actually bigging up the left, without actually putting out a leftist perspective.
Right.
Which, so I was still in that mindset, and then I started getting really into Majority Report, and then I'd listened to Majority Report for a week, and then I'd watch John Oliver at the end of the week, and he'd do his big segment, and he'd do a 20-minute thing that was basically covering what Majority Report covered so much better over the course of the week in a way that was like watered down, and that turned me off of John Oliver. I thought his show was still well crafted in terms of jokes and stuff, like it was better than the Daily Show ever was in terms of like structure. But But then, like, yeah, I feel like sometimes he gets it really right with the leftist perspective. Other times he still is kind of in that Stewart Colbert space. I've really soured on Jon Stewart and Colbert as well. I feel like Colbert was a brilliant satirical character for the time that has, as we've learned more about
Colbert has sucked since Trump. I mean, just absolute garbage. Yeah.
Right. Like, I think it's more of, like, it became obvious that Colbert was crafting a character for a specific moment, and Colbert, the person, did not really... Like, he's a devout Catholic. He really just wanted to have, like, a Tonight Show that was just, like, a polite talk show. Like, that was the end game for him, and he got it, and it's like, oh, you're not, like, the incisive satirist leftist we thought you were. Like,
and Jon
really
Stewart
making fun of dumb right-wing talk show hosts, which is kind of a sitting duck target.
And Jon Stewart, since he left the air, has not been the same, like, at all.
Well, even on the air, if you go back to it, like I kind of go back to, like, Dave Anthony's critique of Jon Stewart, where it's like, it was always, you know, easy sport with right-wing talking heads. He was still, like, cordial enough with O'Reilly to give him, like, equal time. Like, you should never be cordial with these fucking monsters.
No,
he never was really presenting a left perspective. And, like, Stewart spent plenty of time punching left. Like, he, you know... Yeah, I've lost a lot of respect for Jon Stewart.
No, that's fair. I haven't.
I guess there was a writer's strike. He was apparently not. He was anti-union during the writer's strike. He employed scabs. Jon Stewart's not a leftist, so it's sad to say. So I think Oliver's better than both of them. I
think so too. I've actually been, like I said, I watched some of his episodes this summer. So, and the show is really, regardless of viewpoint or angle or whatever, the show is really well researched and, like. Yes. For the most part, and put together, you know what I mean? So, like, I think in the past, his best episodes were, like, ones where he breaks down a topic that could be didactic and he makes it palatable, and it has nothing to do with politics of any kind, for the most part.
Yeah, like, I mean, and now it's political, but I think a good one was, like, when it was an earlier episode where he was going on about payday loans and bail bonds, like, those sort of topics, where, like, topics that weren't necessarily in the news cycle, but they're appalling appalling systems. And he was breaking them down in a way that still had jokes and was still well structured, but he was breaking them down into, like, bite-sized chunks. And you don't have to think of it from a leftist or rightist or whatever perspective. You can just think of it from an informational perspective.
Right. And he's always been good at that. Like, and I feel like he even, like, there's some, even someone like my dad who is, you know, centrist, moderate, whatever, like, you know, like, really liked his show, and I liked the show. So it was just something that, like, you didn't need to, like, wince at if you heard, like, a, you know, dumb talking point or whatever. Like, he's, and like I said, I think with the recent stuff, like, this year, like, he had a lot of good stuff, like, on the pandemic, and, like, he had a lot of, like, you know, he had some good stuff, like I said, about just in the wake of all the fucking, you know, police murders, as they do. He had some good. There was a good episode about, like, why policing in this country is dumb as fuck, and he even did the defended the police, which I did not expect him to defend. So
what did he defend?
He, like, defended defunding the police, yeah, which I did not expect that to happen at all. I expected him to be like, well, you know, but he was like, well, actually, if you defund the police, you know.
I mean, think about where he's coming from, though. He's coming from a UK perspective where there's a lot less. I mean, yeah, the UK is an authoritarian society, but in terms of policing, it's a lot less militarized as it is. I mean, not so much now, but when you grew up, like, there's a lot less money in it. So, yeah, like, I can totally see why he would be 100% on board with that.
Yeah, and also, I mean, he was showing clips from, like, Columbia, South Carolina, which has University of South Carolina in that town. There was, like, some small protests or whatever from the students that were there over the summer, and, like, some of the local people, right? And they were out here rolling tanks down Main Street of the town. It's like, what are you doing? Like, oh God, it's so. Yeah, it's
But so John Oliver.
So yeah, John Oliver ended up in the long run being much better than a lot of other late night shows. That's like the only like late night program I still kind of pay attention to. You know, not that I ever cared about the other one.
Picking his spots, I feel like he's good at picking what he chooses to discuss. Whereas I think Bill Maher is a fucking parasite, and I just don't. I mean, I do understand what his audience is, though. His audience is fucking boomers who want to still appear like they're revolutionary because they like smoke a joint twice a year and they don't think gay people should be stoned to death. Like,
but also have no problem saying the N-word in the car.
yeah, I mean, like they'll say it when they talk about like, you know, not all black people, but you know, they hear a rap song on the radio and they think about that Chris Rock bit they really like, you know.
Yeah. They're like, you know,
of course,
this Killer Mike song slaps, even though I don't agree with anything he said.
Yeah, like I think Bill Maher for a long time was the epitome of he replaced he and Michael Moore and way more Maher than Moore because Moore actually holds some socialist beliefs. And Moore, my problem with Moore is more that I think, and that's really hard to say.
That's a lot of Moore going on.
Yeah, it is.
Did you want more?
I don't want to say more. But my problem with Moore was more in that he is pushing his own gimmick and character ahead of his message. My problem with Maher is that oftentimes when he says something that I agree with is mingling with something that I don't. Like the things that I agree with, he's using the Trojan horse bullshit, just status quo or soft right or worse. Like he's always been Islamophobic. Like, and this whole butthurt comedian, PC police, cancel culture, come at me, bro, mindset. He's been about that forever. Like, don't touch my free speech. Like, that's Bill Maher. Like, I'm sure that he would have Louis. He probably has had Louis C.K. on his fucking panel.
Absolutely.
He doesn't see what was so bad about that. Like, yeah, like, but so what? He's pro like weed legalization. So what? He's pro gay marriage. Like, these are things that are common fucking sense positions.
Dude, yeah, everyone is fucking pro. Yeah. Like, we can't celebrate people. Like, dude, fucking legalizing weed. That was like a talking point 15, 20 years ago. Like, who the fuck cares anymore?
Right. You are for gay marriage. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Basic human like decency.
Right.
Like.
Big, and we don't even know if we want to stretch it that far.
Right. Yeah. You're pro gay marriage, but you're anti Muslims' right to live in your neighborhood.
Right.
Like, Bill Maher would snitch at, like, you know, he might not snitch you out for smoking weed in your apartment complex, but that neighbor next to you that's Muslim that smokes weed, he might snitch him out. He probably would.
When are we getting the Bill Maher episode with 6ix9ine on it? Can you imagine?
Yeah, I could definitely see fucking he could go back. He could have musical guests like Chappelle did back in the day, and 6ix9ine could do like Fifi over like a backing track.
6ix9ine doing the that new song with Nicki Minaj that went #1. Emphasis on the air quotes on #1, and then went triple cardboard right after that. Like
Shout
the next
out to
week.
AstroTurf thing.
Like how many views on YouTube did we have to purchase to get that song to #1? That's my question. Because that shit.
That song is so bad that it makes me agree with J. Cole's shitty verse on a lot. But yeah,
that's such a. It says a lot about a lot. It says a lot about. I'm telling you, I'm titling this episode "The Problem with Moore versus Maher." It says a lot about a lot that it's such a good song that like the J. Cole verse has really grown on me over the years. Which I know.
It's like I start off listening to it. I'm like, it's not as bad as I remember, but then it just goes on and on and on and on.
But the verse is like, fine, but there's a couple
that year where he was like, every verse that I spit is Capadonna on Winter Wars level, and I get to go as long as I want. No, motherfucker, you don't. Like, Eminem still has this problem. Like, motherfucker, 16 bars.
Right.
16.
You cannot be like Andre on 16. Sometimes 16 is enough.
16 is enough.
like just relax. Like, just chill. J. Cole in like 2018, like that whole era, 2018, early 19, like right after KOD came out in 18. J. Cole, that's exactly what he was doing. He was like, I'm going to renegade every verse. It's like,
Yeah, he
no.
thought he was on like some 2010 Kanye, like Rick Ross type shit,
Right.
and it was like people agreed with him. Like I remember his stands were all over that shit.
Oh my God, the Twitter was ablaze with the J. Cole dropping fire features. Oh my God, even people that didn't like him were on the J. Cole's features that year. Have been so good. Like Dead End Hip Hop always flames Cole, but they loved his features on like the JIT album and all that stuff. So
That's off D's, which is like, oh
off the
god,
yeah.
get off my stereo, get off D's fucking speakers, motherfucker. Ugh.
You resisted the D's nuts joke. I'm proud of you.
That took a lot of restraint.
I really I don't mind that song at all. But I know
So just as like I don't know why I'm bothering to take this back to a topic, but I just realized because I was going back to the wiki page on my hand computer, my phone, that Intreatment is coming back. Of all the shows to bring back, Intreatment.
I did not see it in its original run.
Yeah, it was on for 2 years and it aired like every day a week. It was a weird concept. Like I saw it sometimes because I had this habit of leaving the TV on and getting stoned and falling asleep, which mostly meant that I would have Adult Swim on, and then I'd wake up when fucking Inuyasha would come on, and there'd be like a lot of anime yelling, and then I remember to turn my TV off. But if I was watching HBO, eventually Intreatment would come on because it would air every day, and they'd re-air it at like 3 a.m. And it was a weird concept for a show. Like, I appreciate the balls of it. It's just a weird thing to bring back, too. But it might be the right time to do it. Because I feel like everyone's in therapy now because they had nothing better to do during quarantine.
Honestly, the amount of people that I have found that are now in therapy as opposed to pre-pandemic is really wild.
I mean, I guess the pandemic ravaging your country and killing people that you know will probably drive you to therapy, especially if you lost your job. But
plus this election cycle just being an absolute hellscape.
Right, which we all knew it was going to be, and it just poured gasoline. Like everybody knew the election was going to be a hellscape. No one really could have predicted the pandemic. I mean, apparently,
right.
They certainly didn't prepare for it. But
unless you and then you put those two things together, and it was just like Jesus Christ. Like, what are we? I mean, I cannot tell you the amount of brain worms that I've just gotten from just being on the internet this year.
I've managed to limit my internet presence to mostly the Discord and RYM. So, and even then, I still get like brain worms by proxy whenever stuff leaks from the Discord.
Yeah.
Like Ryan will post some horrible thing that somebody said on Twitter. Then it's or both my wife and this guy at work like to tell me about things that fucking happen. Like they both like read the news to me, and they both have a CNN as their main fucking news source. I'm like, stop it, stop with like. Stop reading CNN. And then you can say that to some people and they're like, oh, so I guess you'd rather I read Fox News. No, I'd rather you read none of it. There's places to get news that aren't the quote unquote big four. Like, is it for CNN, Fox News, MSNBC?
I think it's 3. I don't think C-SPAN counts as your
So yeah, I guess AP doesn't count. I mean, like AP Reuters doesn't really count.
Yeah.
I mean, I get all my news from One America, actually. I think they're a pretty good source.
You're going to be like that Oklahoma State football coach who wore the shirt, and then his players were like, yo, fuck this guy. What the
I didn't even know that happened.
Yeah, Mike Gundy, longtime head coach of Oklahoma State, wore an OAN t-shirt over the summer, and his star running back was like, I'm going to quit the team. Oh God!
Well, I shouldn't say this shit because we're still trying to get that Gorka cameo, and he's probably on OAN, so I shouldn't try and acquire the deal. But so yeah, we said about 45 minutes ago we were going to lightning round the dramas on the HBO list from Former. So all right, Big Little Lies.
Good show. Didn't really need a second season, but Meryl Streep, who I famously am not like really a huge fan of, is really good in the second season.
I only saw the first season, which I thought was outstanding. Yeah. I'm not a fan of Reese Witherspoon. The show made me a fan of Reese Witherspoon and made me realize that she just picked shit material between election and this show.
Sure.
Walk the Line's debatable. I'm not a fan of biopics, so necessarily. And Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story, forever ruined Walk the Line for me. So,
Yeah.
but she actually does a great job in that movie in terms of, I think she sings her own songs. So that's actually pretty impressive if that was her singing voice. But Election's an amazing like villain performance, and she's super compelling in Big Little Lies. Everyone is. Nicole Kidman's outstanding in this role. It's really well shot. I did not see the second season. I heard that David E. Kelly had fucking issues with a woman, which is the least surprising thing ever. And so the second season's kind of a mess, but I mean, the trailer looked good. I'm sure, like, I've heard good things about Meryl Streep. Again, Meryl Streep is somebody that, like, it really depends on the role for me. And she's so, again, like, I do not like what she did with Thatcher. That I do not like what she did for
Oh
Thatcher.
God, that's not a good movie.
No.
No.
Worse, her as Thatcher or DiCaprio as Hoover.
DiCaprio as Hoover is funnier.
That is true. There's a lot of
least.
unintentional funny.
As we talked about this in an episode from like 3 years ago, but we the high school level of makeup and costume and all that.
Because Eastwood is such a professional. I think that's the point I made in the last episode when we talked about this forever ago that none of you will ever hear. Is like Eastwood's such a good director, but that movie, well, I don't think I'd seen it at that point. Actually, I was like, oh, it's that bad. I have seen some of it since, and it's that bad. It's amateur level. Like, what the fuck was going on with a lot of that? And once again, Leonardo DiCaprio does a dumb accent for no fucking reason, or a dumb inflection. Like, I don't know why he insists on this. He started it with Gangs of New York. Well, actually, he kind of even does it in Titanic. Maybe it started with Gilbert Grape. Like, he just started this dumb voice thing that he just couldn't lose. He's like, well, Brando did dumb voices.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I think some of the dumb voices, though, you don't think that was put on by, like, the director, maybe?
I mean, Gilbert Grape is, like, obviously. That was, but Titanic, do you think James Cameron cared about any characters in that movie? Do you think he realized there were characters in that movie?
No, James Cameron was like, I'm going to make the big... All right, dude, you're not...
James Cameron's pitch for that was like, boat sink, boat big.
It's a real shame because James Cameron, up until that point, was quite good at his job. I mean, this is a guy. This is a guy that made
a nuts and bolts technical guy. Like, if you think about like The Abyss and Aliens, like definitely what interested him was water and things that floated in water and photographing them a lot.
I mean, but even like the Terminator movies, are like, is that the biggest like pop culture thing that was like, hey, cops suck?
Good point, dude. Yeah, Terminator 2 is a cab as fuck.
Yeah.
And consider that it had like super Republican lead Arnold Schwarzenegger in it.
Yeah, I actually read an article way earlier in the year. It might have been last year. I think it was earlier this year, just about Terminator 2 and like how its like politics actually are if you like look at it for longer than a few seconds.
I mean, there's actually probably the scene that stuck with me the most from Terminator 2 when I saw it as a really young kid, probably too young to have watched it because it actually is hyper violent, is the most violent scene from it, I think. When the mother is when someone's drinking a carton of milk and it turns into a knife that slices them in the throat because it's actually Patrick is the T-1000. And that always stuck with me. But that's like kind of like like if you think of it purely on an aesthetic, visceral level, it's like this cop motherfucker like in suburbia just killing you to your face and like taking this like picturesque suburban thing. What's more picturesque suburban than like a fucking carton of milk?
Right.
Yeah. It's got a lot of like striking imagery like that. It's a good ass movie, dude. Like,
no, I love
it. Led up to, like, if you read my review, I talk about how I don't give it 5 because I think that it led to a lot of bad shit, which I don't think is really a fair assessment of why not to give something 5 stars. Maybe I should give it 5 because that's holding something against the film that's not the film's fault.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% about all that, and yeah, I have it at 4.5. I think it's an awesome fucking movie. Yeah, I think it's. Going back and watching, because I mean, you know me just for over the years knowing me, like I'm a big into like, hey, if you can like scratch this like action cyberpunk itch, like I'll probably like it, So this being like kind of tailor made for me in a sense. But I remember, loved it in high school. Kind of when I went throughout college, like, damn, this probably doesn't hold up as well. Let me knock it down like a half star. And then I rewatched it like at the beginning of the year, I think, just like with my younger brother because he hadn't seen it. And I was like, no, this movie still rules. We're gonna go back up to 4.5. So that's it's like my arc with the movie. So yeah, James.
I saw it as a very early, like right when it came out on VHS. I think it was a 2 VHS actually because it's really long. Might have been the director's cut, and it just like I loved pretty much everything about it. And I watched it again and again, and I watched it again when I was in like high school, college age, and I was just like, it works on a visceral level. And I think I knocked it back down a little bit afterwards, where I'm like, well, it's Arnold Schwarzenegger. And my main thing that made me think less of it, and this is the most nerd, like kind of podcast full of where I say nerdy shit about nerdy shit.
Right.
There was a David Foster Wallace essay about movies around this time period about how the CGI in that movie and everything kind of led to. He doesn't say Michael Bay in the essay, but I think he wrote it in '96. So Michael Bay was just coming in, like The Rock had probably either just come out or not come out yet. Mm-hmm. And what he's basically saying is that this CGI, this idea of like, the most expensive thing ever, because one part of it was, I think it was the most expensive movie ever made until Titanic, was that it brought in like this arms race sort of mentality to movies. Like T2 led to Jurassic Park, which is what he mentions in the essay. And it's just about having bigger and better in your movies and having the spectacle be the point. But I don't think the spectacle is the point with T2.
No,
Jurassic Park, bit more. Like I think Jurassic Park is like literally the park is a spectacle. Like it's supposed to be a ride. So, and Jurassic Park holds up less well to me. It's still a good movie, although I have less time for Spielberg than for a lot of people. So sorry, Matt Bellazima.
Yeah, I mean, I think
sure listens to this podcast.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
He's not on the spreadsheet. He can still listen to it. I don't think that he can.
We haven't said anything about Sinatra yet.
Oh yeah, he can't listen to it.
He can't listen.
Sorry, Sinatra fans can't listen to it. Sorry, Matt.
He can't listen to the podcast. I would. It's interesting. The T2 take is interesting because I would attribute Bay more to quite literally one of his own, like Bad Boys, one of his own movies, where a movie that I still quite like, but and I'm not. I have like an interesting like. I'm not like a Bay hater or anything. So, I mean, I think some of his movies are terrible, but I'm not like a Bay hater. If you take out the Transformers, I have a decent opinion of his filmography, actually. But
I mean, I didn't see the Benghazi one, but
no, I'm sure that one probably wasn't great. But but I like I said, I like Bad Boys. Bad Boys 2 is just everything on a movie screen. I don't really know.
Bad Boys 2 is like that's the definition of I wish I could give this all the ratings.
Yeah, seriously, it's kind of like one of the most repulsive and also one of the most fun movies I've ever seen.
I mean, Bad Boys 2 is like you said. Terminator 2 is surprisingly anti-cop. Bad Boys 2 is surprisingly pro-cop.
Pro-cop, yeah. Bad Boys 2 is quite racist, but
yeah, for a movie with 2 black leads, it's incredibly fucking racist.
Very racist.
Bad Boys 2 makes Rush Hour look like Amiri Baraka directed a documentary.
Bad Boys 2 makes Rush Hour look like the autobiography of Malcolm X. But yeah, like I don't know, like Bad Boys 1, like I think there the famous scene where Will Smith is like, running and he's running away from running and he gets in the car. It's that chase scene.
Right. Well, I think Bad Boys is actually prior to, like, I don't think Bad Boys is the CGI overkill I'm talking about. Neither really is The Rock. Like, I don't think that Bay becomes, like, a thing till Armageddon.
I was going to say Pearl Harbor, but yeah, that's fair.
Well, now, Armageddon's nearly 3 hours long. Armageddon has some of the, like, it doesn't hold up for, like, the fact that it has a Criterion is fucking hilarious. I love that.
I do love that. I do love that. There are moments. Have you seen I know you probably haven't. I've only seen bits and pieces of it. The director's commentary and like the actor's commentary for Armageddon is so funny. I don't know if you've ever even seen it on YouTube.
I imagine that Bruce Willis is probably hungover. I really hope they got Billy Bob Thornton like coked up as fuck for it.
I watched
laugh like a moron.
I watched a video essay on just about I was watching. There's a video essayist on YouTube that I really like, Patrick Williams. He's really good, really funny. But he likes he has like he kind of has similar takes on Michael Bay than I do. He's a pretty good filmmaker. Transformers movies blow, like blah blah blah.
I
And
do want to see Pain and Gain, by the way. That's one I want.
that's a good movie. I saw that over the summer. I rewatched it. It's a good movie. Pretty good. It's like I know the common take is like, yeah, it's like Coen Brothers movie, but like, with a lobotomy, and that's kind of what it is. But it's a pretty fun movie.
I mean, a Coen Brothers movie with a lobotomy is Intolerable Cruelty.
Okay, well, it's better than Intolerable Cruelty.
Low
It's
bar.
a little better. Low bar. True. Well, you don't think?
Actually, you know what? Lady Killers is worse than Intolerable.
Yeah, Lady Killers is definitely worse. I was about to bring that up. Lady Killers, I saw once, and I was like, I'm never watching this again. It's like this movie's fucking
Lady
terrible.
Killers, again, would be more tolerable if Tom Hanks didn't do the dumb fucking voice.
God, what a dumbass movie.
Why? Why did they do that, dude? That was so misguided on so many levels.
So many levels. Did you ever see Buster Scruggs?
No, not yet. The most recent Coen I think I've seen is Llewellyn. Is it Llewellyn Davis or what? What was after? What was after Llewellyn Davis?
Hail Caesar, right?
I saw that. I liked that more than most. What was after that?
I think it was Scruggs was after that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I haven't seen Scrubs. I have not seen Scrubs.
Yeah. No, Hail Caesar was like
We
pretty
could do a
good.
Coen's episode at some point too. By the way, if we ever did a film episode.
Oh hell yeah!
And, yeah,
Coens are some of the best
I
ever.
probably have I don't know if it's possible to have like a canon Coen or like a boring Coen's take, because I mean Fargo is one of my favorites. Lebowski's one of my favorites. I think that's pretty boring. I think my outside the box Coen's take would be Man Who Wasn't There is top 5, maybe top 3.
Interesting. I have to look at my. Well, I know that like my favorite.
Sadly, we're going alphabetically on the wiki list. Otherwise, that would dovetail perfectly into a Sopranos discussion.
Perfectly. We can do Sopranos now if you want. I was just gonna.
Let's do Sopranos now.
I was gonna say Llewellyn Davis probably makes my top 5, but that's
Llewellyn Davis is outstanding. The only thing I don't like about Llewellyn Davis is the very end they do the joke about him playing opening for Bob Dylan, and it's like oh, that's the joke.
the joke. There it is. I
They
rewatched.
normally don't spell out the joke like that. That's what it got. That's what's like oh. So I mean, I don't want to say the Coens are normally subtle because some of their best movies aren't subtle. Like Burn After Reading is the opposite of subtle, and I love that movie.
Love that movie. I was gonna say that I rewatched Miller's Crossing and Blood Simple this summer, and they both are still really good. Really good.
I haven't seen those in forever. I need to rewatch those because Coens are. That's part of the reason Man Who Wasn't There is so good is because you can tell they have such an appreciation for noir. They know the timing, they know the beats, they know the palette, they know all of it. And Man Who Wasn't There is very much stated as a genre piece. They do it in black and white. They do it very, very stylized. And I think it gets a short shrift for the same reason that True Grit gets short shrift, where it's the Coens are we're doing a genre piece now. And it's okay, so we're kind of viewing this in a glass case. Whereas I think you kind of have to view it what if this came out? What if Man Who Wasn't There came out in 1946? What if True Grit came out in the 30s or the 50s as a deconstructionist Western alongside The Searchers or something? That's how I think you have to view those films, not as they're coming out at the time they're coming out. Because at that point,
absolutely.
You're oh, this is incongruous from what I'm used to.
And you're also kind of in doing that disqualifying all these other movies that you might like. That's that's kind of
I don't think they're doing any winky sort of they don't do any sort of winky incongruities in the movies themselves. They're not trying to position these as view this from a fresh eye, a modern perspective. I'm trying to think of I don't know. First thing that came to mind, and this is probably not a 1-to-1, is I'm Gonna Get You, Sucker, Keenan Ivory Wayne's blaxploitation movie, where it's they made this in 1995 or whatever. This is clearly a blaxploitation movie for people who've seen all of them and know the beats. Whereas True Grit or Man Who Wasn't There, they're movies that are made for people who are watching them at the time.
I can
view them.
No, I can see that for sure.
So yeah, that's why I feel they get, because I saw True Grit in theaters and I fucking loved it. No one really feels as strongly about that in the Coens cap. That might be my hot Coens take, because that's definitely top. That Man Who Wasn't There, I'd probably put under Fargo, No Country, and Big Lebowski. That's my top 5. With Burn After Reading maybe at number 6, which I also probably a hot take because people are kind of not. They think it's lighter, which it is, but it's fucking hysterical, beginning to end. Malkovich is amazing in that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, we need to do a Coen's episode. Clearly, I have a lot of Coen's opinions.
No, these are good. I like these takes. These are good takes. a lot of Coen's opinions. But for good reason.
Right. And yeah, I grew up on Raising Arizona, so that's probably why I'm so gravitating towards their work. That was on Comedy Central all the time when I was a kid. It would just play in the background while I was doing other stuff. So I probably just absorbed Coen stuff by osmosis.
Yeah, I think that's.
They have a distinct rhythm to their comedy and their movies. Even when they're doing genre stuff, their rhythm still kind of asserts itself a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I mean, I think with them, to your point about the rhythm, if you kind of fall in line with that rhythm, you're with it. You know what I mean? As soon as you kind of, if you catch on to it and you're into it, then you're gonna like a lot of their stuff because that's just their humor and their
right. And there's
how they direct.
Even in Man Who Wasn't There, it's a super dry noir movie, but there's also humor because the Tony Shalhoub character is this sleazy lawyer, and his scenes are hilarious.
Right.
So we've gotten one into the HBO list. We got one to HBO list.
I mean, some of the other ones I've seen episodes of Big Love. I don't care.
We had to breeze through some of these. Yeah, Big Love is it didn't do much for me, so I didn't really get into it. Boardwalk Empire, I gave 1.5 seasons. I love the pilot. The Scorsese directed pilot's great. I think Buscemi's great as the lead character. His pacing was too slow for me, and it felt. Whoever does Dabney Coleman as the fucking Fed, he's really good too. But beyond that, it never engaged me.
Yeah, I feel the same, pretty much the same way. I really didn't even pick up with it after season 2, so I don't even know what happens after. Yeah.
Carnival, it's on the back burner. I saw one episode back in the day, and I was I need to watch this in sequence. This makes no sense. It seems like it's cool though. Maybe it has to do with the Gathering of the Juggalos. I don't know. Perhaps. Deadwood, we talked about. Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones, good.
Consistent quality from beginning to end.
Is this the most popular the most popular TV show?
I think it's probably going to play Sopranos at this point.
Oh yeah, its reign of popularity was huge.
It was the most popular. It was the most streamed show in the world. I know that.
Yeah, that's. I mean, this was such a moneymaker for them that eventually they were going to fuck it up, and they did.
When did they fuck it up? When do you think they fucked it up?
Yeah, I know we kind of had disagreements about it because I think season 5 they fucked up.
Yes, that's
and then I think they resurrected it with season 6,
which I didn't see, so I can't really. Right. I don't know where the disagreement was because I disagree.
Oh no, maybe it might have been somebody else, but season 7, it's 8 seasons, right? Yeah,
it's 8 seasons, and I know what the plot twist was with the bringing the fucking White Walker back or whatever was the dumbest sound I've ever heard in my life.
Season.
I think that they cast actors beyond. Okay, they cast actors beyond their ability, and Danny actually evolved, whereas Jon Snow did not. And I don't know if this was the writing's fault or the actor's fault, but given the arc of the show that was crippling for them, where they were going to end up, both the actors had to show up for it, and I don't think Jon Snow, as an actor, as a performer, really lived up to what they needed from him.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think Jon Snow, over the course of the show, you were okay, we're doing this again, that sort of thing. Yeah, I think season 7, like I said, was inconsistent, but its best moments were really great. And then season 8 was just
season 8 had the one cool episode where you had all the characters together, getting ready to die. Where I'm this is why I like the show. A bunch of interesting characters getting together,
right?
In an interesting landscape, and then they had a badly lit battle scene for 2 hours, which was like watching somebody play Halo.
Yeah,
you weren't playing. And then
It was a Twitch Game of Thrones stream.
more or less, yeah, it was like a badly lit Twitch stream where it kept buffering, and then fucking.
I'm glad that you also agree because I couldn't see shit in that episode.
Yeah, I don't. And then the rest of it was just like clearly they had whatever Martin's plot outlines were, and they were just like too much, not enough time, not enough time, not enough time, which is weird because everybody else seems to be saying they could have had as much time as they wanted.
If you gave, I mean, the show could have the last season would have been so much better if you gave them 4 more episodes and like they could actually like spend some time in a location. Like you said, what was the good thing about that the intro episode where everybody's getting ready to die?
Because the second episode, well, it's the first 2 essentially. Like the first episode sets everybody back up in position. The second episode, they're like,
everybody get ready to die. Yeah, you're right.
It's right before the battle for Winterfell, and they're all just kind of like stealing themselves for the battle. And you like get everybody catching up with each other. Characters who've never met each other meet each other, and you have all these interactions, and it's cool. And then you have this terrible battle episode, which is just not what I've never watched Game of Thrones for the battles. Sometimes there are cool battles, but they're kind of like a bonus. Like I watched it for like what got me into the show was the structure of the plot and the characters, mostly the characters. Like I'm not a big fantasy guy, and like I got into it from the first season, and that made me read the books. And I guess that's like, you know, book reader Game of Thrones fans are horrible. I guess, but the books are so much better. I'm sorry. Like they're a much more satisfying experience, and they're never going to be done. That's unfortunate. Georgie's got to watch the Jets. So, but yeah, it's like, that was what was enjoyable about the show. And it was, you had it for a fleeting moment, and then the rest of the season just felt like they were rushing through what they were given as notes. And the writing of the characters is so beside the point. Like they were just rushing to the end. And I watched The Bells with my in-laws, and they were more committed to the show than I was. And even they were just like worn out by it. Like the thing about it is the show replaced character development with visceral overload and hitting the same beats over and over. Like Jesus Christ, Arya should have died 10 times in that episode. Like it numbs the fucking senses when you do the same thing over and over. And you know what they numb the senses with? And they did this in season 5. Rape. They fucking numb the senses with rape.
True.
Like, you cheapened fucking rape, dude. Like that's just. It really showed their priorities were in the wrong place. Like every season of the show, like once you've read the books, like it really does kind of, I guess it makes you an annoying fan of the show because it makes you see every time in the show they go off pace or off track from what the books were trying to do till it's a completely different animal entirely. And it also highlights just bad things about television and human nature in general, where it's like, what are you watching this show for? Are you watching it for character development or to see women get raped and violence? Like, what are you watching this for? Like, I'd see comments on RYM where it's like, damn, like this show sucks since Cersei does, or since Dany doesn't get her tits out anymore. Like, yeah, you really like when they had that 14-year-old get raped because you got to see her boobs. Damn.
They were, that was exactly what. Yeah, that was exactly what that's saying.
So like something about a combination of the fandom, the getting away from the books, the over reliance on battle scenes I didn't care about. Like there are 2 seasons I've completely not seen. I'm in no hurry to finish them. I probably never will. And I thought the finale was brutally unsatisfying. It had 1 or 2 good like little in-joke comedic moments, but it was just not the worst finale ever because like Bran didn't become a lumberjack. You know, like there have been worse finales. So you might have for as much sense as it made.
I mean, I don't know. Like, I mean, it isn't like Dexter level, but you know, it's.
We don't even need to talk about that. We don't need
to speak on that. Yeah.
All I'll say is the best thing about Dexter was the season with John Lithgow, because John Lithgow owns, and he's one of the best actors ever. He can elevate any material. He made Third Rock from the Sun watchable. That's how good he is.
With you 100%.
But yeah, that's all I really have to say about Game of Thrones. I think it's telling that I have one more thing to say, that a show that built up so much goodwill, no one's really like caping for it anymore. Maybe 10 years from now, there's going to be like a reclamation movement or whatever. Maybe when they start rolling out the spinoffs they couldn't due to COVID. But Like, I don't know. I think they really squandered like what could have been like an all-time thing.
If it ended before the last season, plenty of people would be on it, and you know, honestly, maybe rightfully so. But the last season was so underwhelming, and or terrible, depending on the episode. That it was just like who the fuck cares?
I agree. Who the fuck cares? Here and Now, I don't know. John from Cincinnati, did you watch any of this?
Did not.
It's baffling. It's weird, man. It's fucking David Milch, after Deadwood, decided he wanted to make a family drama about a surfer who might be Jesus. People didn't like this. It lasted one season.
I'm surprised.
Yeah, it's worth. I saw about like 3 or 4 episodes because I think it was airing when a season of The Wire or something was airing. So I like it aired right afterwards because they would do like or it was after Curb or something. Like it was like in the programming block where I would just keep the TV on. And I saw some of it, and it's shot well. It's interesting, but it's baffling. It's weird, and it like especially considering how like Deadwood. It almost feels like okay, you wanted me to do something more marketable after Deadwood. How about Surf for Jesus with incomprehensible dadaist dialogue? Here you go. K Street. I've never seen this. It's Steven Soderbergh did like avant-garde, like realist Frederick Wiseman style thing about like terrible people on K Street. I have no desire to see this, even though I like Soderbergh. People on K Street can go fuck themselves. Luck was a show that killed a lot of horses. That was also David Milch. He has bad luck. No pun intended.
Oh, that was terrible. No, don't try.
I swear to God, I didn't mean to do that.
I have not seen the show, so I can't speak.
Apparently it was very good, but it got shut down because several horses died. It's a horse racing show. Maximum Secure. Okay, I got to look this one up because the date on this, 1984. HBO was still TV in 1984. It was not TV in 1984. It is an American drama television series on HBO about life in a suit. So they did Oz, like 20 years before Oz.
Yeah, and then they made Oz.
Right. This went 7 episodes. They don't have air dates for beyond the first 2. This is weird. It's weird that there's not much more info on this. I have to look this up. And then the next one is Oz. Interestingly enough. All right, Oz is okay. Oz was the first drama I remember HBO getting like a prestige reputation on, which is funny if you've ever watched Oz.
I mean, Oz, we talk about desensitizing people to rape.
Very true. How much Oz have you seen?
Not the whole show, but like probably.
It goes real batshit crazy after a while. I mean, and it doesn't start out like particularly grounded in reality.
No, I don't know. It's a good show.
It's a good show in that there are good performances on it, but it's like I don't know. I would not say it quote unquote holds up.
No, I probably not, and I've only seen a couple seasons.
Right. Like, and the later stuff, like Luke Perry plays like a televangelist who actually resurrects like Jesus.
Hell yeah.
So, I can't really do justice to the later seasons of Oz. It gets entertaining in a different way, but it's funny that it like got this reputation as HBO's like, oh, we're serious, when it really was just like, I guess, a precursor of the, well, what are you watching this serious show for? Are you watching it for like a critique of the prison system, or just like dudes are getting raped, shanked, you could, so. Like, I think that was always the thing with HBO was it was prestige, but it was like one of the things was, I forget where I first heard this, but it was like they always did the mob talking scenes on The Sopranos in the Bing, like with the strippers. Like they didn't have to do that. Like don't you think they ever talked like upstairs where there weren't boobs?
Yeah.
Where there weren't people listening to their criminal conspiracy? Like, are these strippers taking notes on a fucking criminal conspiracy?
Oh, God.
I guess
do we want
to talk about? I mean,
well,
we're skipping a few things. We can come back to 6 Feet Under, and I can shit on Aaron Sorkin and James Franco later. But we should talk about The Sopranos.
Well, I might. All right,
You're gonna defend the Deuce. You're gonna defend the Deuce, I guess.
It's a really good show. I haven't seen it. I haven't seen the newest season, so don't.
My wife watched it to the end, and she will say that her comments on it were that it's a good show, except for James Franco's character. And she said that the fact that he did a double role was the most unnecessary masturbatory thing ever.
I mean, that is what James Franco is in a nutshell. I agree.
I mean, in more ways than one.
Yeah. That was a layup.
Yeah, that was slow pitch softball.
Yeah, I think it's a really, really good show. I have, like I said, I haven't seen the newest season, so maybe it doesn't get as good as it was initially. But
the last season was just as good as the rest. And
okay,
I've seen whole episodes too, and she's like, Maggie Gyllenhaal's character is the best character on the show, and I agree.
Maggie Gyllenhaal's character is outstanding. There's a character that ultimately dies off that's also outstanding. There's I like it. But yeah, I guess we did. You haven't seen The Leftovers, have you? Leftovers is a really
Leftovers that's the Lost guy, right? That's J.J. Abrams David Lindoff. Damon Lindelof.
Yeah,
right.
Leftovers is David Lindelof.
Yeah, I've heard that it's actually he wrote an ending this time, so it's not bad. But I have not seen it because fuck
Leftovers is the rare show that gets better after the first season. Like the first season was like okay, and then the next couple seasons were great, and you're like, what happened here? So it improves as it goes on, unlike Lost.
I mean, Lost,
Yeah, right. But anyway, I guess if you want to we can talk about the two main episodes. Well, you want to shit on True Blood real quick or no?
Okay. True Blood is a good concept that was good for 3 seasons, and I thought, who was the guy who goes on the news and tears the guy's spine out? Was that Russell?
Oh gosh, I haven't seen the show in forever.
I haven't seen it in forever, but there's one guy who's like the villain on one season. He comes on the news and he tears the one guy's spine out and gives a speech, and that's the best part of the whole show.
Did you see? I'm looking at the wiki right now. The struggle for vampire equality in True Blood has been interpreted as an allegory for the LGBT rights movement. Yeah, they were real subtle about that. That show was True Blood known for its subtlety. True Blood got real stupid real quick. Stupid.
But
I kind of agree with you though. Good concept. Like better than this is executed. This is the Twilight era, so like everybody was obsessed with vampires, and like executed better than that stuff. But yeah,
I got off board after I guess that third season was the one where they did the Vampire Rights Act, which was supposed to be a very subtle allegory, apparently, for the marriage equality. The best scene on the show is when I believe the dude's name is Russell. He's this old vampire, comes on the show, rips out some guy's spine, and says, "Why we want equal rights? We are not your equals." Fucking awesome. But everything on that's downhill. Anna Paquin was not great as the lead because she's not a great actress, but she looked really good, and I thought it had a good cast. But it was just got dumber as it went. I couldn't keep up with it.
So do we? Before we get to like the two big ones, do you want to just shit on Jeff Newsroom real quick? We can shit on Jeff.
I've only ever seen the thing from the pilot.
God, it's so. Oh my God, the intro.
yeah.
Have you heard the?
That's Aaron Sorkin distilled. Like that's like if you could make an Aaron Sorkin like drug. You would just distill that little speech into a fucking vial and shoot it into your veins. And then you would just do nothing but walk and talk for the rest of your life and just give fucking platitudes. Yeah, this show is fucking terrible. It doesn't surprise me that a network that employed Bill Maher for 20 years also greenlit this show for 2 seasons. And now Jeff Bridges is Atticus Finch on Broadway as like the fucking drunken hyper chicken, which is just like, God, fuck Aaron Sorkin. Aaron Sorkin's the worst.
Aaron Sorkin really, really, truly is.
he's really had like such a negative effect on the world with like ever giving back anything positive.
And that's coming. And to be honest with you, I love Social Network, but that's obviously tailor made for. I mean, that's Fincher doing his.
Well, the thing is that you can't look at Social Network as something that has protagonists. So
because it really doesn't.
Shitty, vapid, vacant dialogue works to the effect of the movie. Like it's the Winklevoss twins and fucking Zuckerberg. So yeah, like the fact that their dialogue is stupid and not how humans talk. These aren't human beings, so it works. And yeah, like it's aesthetically amazing. The Reznor soundtrack's amazing. I mean, Sorkin was used well, but I don't give Sorkin credit.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was more just finding the right hack voice for these terrible people than it was Aaron Sorkin writing well. I imagine if you watch Sports Night, you'll probably hate it. I mean, I've never seen it, but I imagine as a sports fan, somebody like Aaron Sorkin writing Sports Center, like
probably not
sounds like horror, like your worst nightmare.
Yeah, I just want to say the Newsroom is one of the biggest Galaxy Brain shows without being fun. So it just sucks.
Yeah, as best I can tell, I've only ever seen the Jeff Newsroom speech from the pilot, but as best I can tell, the Newsroom is fan fiction about how if Keith Olbermann was allowed to be awesome, then we wouldn't have George Bush.
The Newsroom is fan fiction if the actual president from the West Wing was president.
Which people actually really want in real life.
I know. It's the worst shit, dude.
It's toxic, just nonsense, and fuck Aaron Sorkin. So I guess 6 Feet Under, since we talked about True Blood, I guess this is the bastard child, because you said the big two are Sopranos and Wire, which they are.
Yeah.
6 Feet Under was around at the same time, and I've watched this all the way through more. Like, I saw every single episode as it aired, which I can't say of the other two. Like, The Wire, I missed due to work during the last season. I had to catch the last season after the fact, and which was, we'll get to that when we get to The Wire. And Sopranos, I missed a lot. Like, again, I worked on Sundays, which was a bad week to work when you wanted to watch HBO dramas. And Sopranos, we'll get to that when I get to that, but something about season 4 turned me off a little bit, so I missed a few episodes during season 4. 6 Feet Under, I was so into that I made a point to, if I missed it, I would have somebody tape it for me and catch it afterwards, even though in its season 4, it also turned me off. But as fucking in my feelings high schooler, this show hit me harder than either Sopranos or The Wire, although I would still rank it third because it is the most flawed of the three, but I think it's still at their level.
Yeah, I think I saw it once all the way through, and I don't remember all the major beats from the show, so I do need to rewatch it. But
I think first in its credit is that it's the first major drama I can recall that at length talked about LGBTQ issues like as a weekly thing and not just an episode of the week thing, and didn't just have a token character. Like a main character was gay, but it wasn't just he had a gay issue once a week. Like there were gay characters that came into the orbit, like it organically evolved them because Alan Ball obviously is gay. So He made that into like the fabric of the show. Like it felt like it was taking on issues that weren't like voices that weren't being heard on television in an occasionally cartoonish, tone deaf way. Like whenever he had to write an ethnic character, it was not great. But I feel like it was a sincere attempt to let voices that weren't being heard be heard. And as an ensemble family drama, I struggle to think of one aside from The Sopranos and it works better as a family drama because this was a family that actually seemed to as a family, you want them to actually succeed as a family, whereas in The Sopranos, they're all horrible and, you actually actively root against them by the end, or at least you're supposed to. At least that's what I think David Chase wants you to think. And it's certainly what I thought by the end. But, some people just wanted to see Tony shoot people.
Yeah, that is an unfortunate fact of life when it comes to no one. It was bad then, and I almost think it's even worse now. Like no one knows how to. It's such a condescending thing, but like, do people know how to like consume art anymore? This could be a whole side tangent, but like.
And I cannot believe my fucking mother comes up yet again on this podcast. But like I said, we watched The Sopranos a lot together at the time. Like, that was our one family thing, me, my mother, and my brother. And eventually, in the last season, like, I would watch the episodes before them sometimes. And the first thing they would always ask is, who got whacked? Did Tony kill anybody? It's like, I don't think that's the point.
No.
And I think that the last season of the show... Okay, well, I guess since it's the most important one, and we're going to eventually get to The Wire, and that's what we're going to talk the most about. So, The Sopranos, how did you come to it, and how did you watch it?
I came to it just after watching The Wire. Like, it was one of the ones like, okay, I've seen The Wire, I've seen Breaking Bad, you know, it's like the ones that, like, you have to watch these, you know, those kind of shows.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I just kind of...
So you binged it, like, after watching it. What? I was just curious.
Oh, sure, yeah, I was in high school, I was in late high school, I was probably a junior or a senior in high school, and I watched the show, and I was blown away.
Just for comparison's sake, because I watched it as it aired, and
right.
It was just so different than... Because I remember... not I remember, but... So I listened to West Wing thing, which is Dave from the Dollop and Josh Olson talking about the West Wing and why it's horrible, going back to Aaron Sorkin and how he's horrible. Mm-hmm. And right. They always go back to how people would rhapsodize about how the West Wing was so revolutionary for being on television when it was. And Josh always points out, no, it wasn't. The Sopranos was on at the same time.
Yeah.
And granted, West Wing was broadcast TV, Sopranos wasn't TV, it was HBO, but it was still doing things on such a more elevated level, which sounds pretentious, but... And there were precursors to this, like there was like Hill Street Blues. There were like, you know, shows that had like ambiguous protagonists. But what was challenging about The Sopranos was that it had a protagonist that wasn't a protagonist. Like you weren't supposed to root for Tony. And I think that some viewers never got out of the mindset. Like thinking about The Wire, one of the things that David Simon says that people make fun of him for that sounds pretentious, but when you think about it, makes sense, is that he said the first season of The Wire was a training exercise to break you as a viewer from your preconceived notions of how to view this type of show. And The Sopranos, David Chase said that he didn't expect to get a second season. So all of his ideas for the show went into the first season. So the first season is like a mob movie over 10, 11 episodes, 12 episodes, however many it is. But he's not doing it in the same style of either a mafia TV show or a movie, in that ultimately, like, Tony survives, but he's not a character you're supposed to like or really sympathize with or empathize with. And he doesn't really, like, he's challenging you, but he's not doing the retraining exercise sort of thing. And I don't think he ever did until the end, where he's outwardly, like, kind of telling the audience, fuck you. Like,
yeah.
Like, eventually, I think he got sick of hearing the same questions from his audience, the audience having its expectations of the show. The show became something that he didn't want it to be, so he killed his monster, essentially. But yeah, I don't know where I was really going with this, but I think you get my general idea, in that, in terms of an anti-hero, in terms of the way the show is structured, people come into it with expectations they never let go of. And they were always viewing the show as like, oh, Tony's the boss. Either Tony's going to get redemption, or we're supposed to root for Tony this whole way, or it's Tony versus Phil, Tony versus Johnny Sack, Tony versus somebody, or Tony's going to get his family together. But really, the show is always about disintegration, the disintegration of America, the disintegration of Tony's family, the disintegration of the mafia, the disintegration of image.
Yeah. No, I 100%. Like, and it hits those beats in a way that, like, kind of, some of which don't sneak up on you and some of which do.
Yeah.
And you said the same thing about another show that we went over recently. I've seen it once all the way through, and I need to, oh no, you said about Sopranos. Yeah, I need to do a Sopranos rewatch, and I was planning on doing it this year, and then, got a job and shit happens, but It's pretty crazy. Like I still haven't done this rewatch because I was so enamored with the show when I watched it the first time when I was like 17, 18. So I definitely need to go
And
back
it's
to it.
not-
And I've watched like clips that I really love over the years, like on YouTube and stuff, but never just given into.
I mean, Christopher's intervention is like one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
Oh my god, yeah. all the God, I mean, just
like fucking Tony Sirico and James Gandolfini do not get enough credit for how funny they are on this show. Or fucking Chris. Why can't I remember his name? 1800 Tequila guy. Go get your shine box. What the fuck is his name? God damn it! This is bothering me. Now I have to look it up.
You like it when you didn't like it.
Imperioli, Michael Imperioli.
Yeah.
He's also really funny.
I'm a big fan of when Vito gets the sandwich thrown at him at dinner. It's great.
I would say that the Vito gay plot is the one miss in the show. Like, I feel like I see what they were going for, and they kind of get there, but like, and I feel like that was Chase kind of lecturing the audience a little bit, maybe a little too bluntly.
Yeah. Yeah, I usually am pretty good with like TV writing, and like I understand like it's TV writing, so I'm usually pretty lenient.
No, I mean, I don't think it's an outright failure that the episodes were unwatchable or anything, but I feel like in terms of compared to other big Sopranos arcs, it's the one that, especially considering it was near the end, and I see why he did it near the end, because it's like everybody wanted blood, and this is what he gave them.
Mm-hmm. So I guess leading us to, what do you think of the finale and the ending scene?
Brilliant. Absolutely.
Yeah, I love it.
Brilliant.
I loved it.
Yeah, my mom and brother were so mad at it. My mom actually was thinking her cable went out. She was not one of the people who called to yell about her cable going out, thank God. But apparently that was like a big thing, was that people called HBO and it's like, why did the cable go out? But
yeah,
it's like the cable went out, but it came back and the credits went on. Like, weird. Like, weird how that works. I thought it was perfectly pulled off in every way, shape, or form. Like, it's really blunt, but I felt like at that point he just felt like, why bother with subtlety?
Yeah.
And apparently
and
it's still going over people's heads.
It's like it wasn't even. It was so obvious.
I mean, I guess
what have we been saying this whole episode, or at least what I've been saying? Like, people, it's such a horribly arrogant thing to say, but like, I'm not saying I do this well either, but like, people just literally do not know how to consume art. Like, have we really been?
Well, I feel like people are just so used to being, and this is a horribly arrogant thing, pretentious thing to say, is like, I think people are more used to being spoon-fed shit. And that's not to say that things need to be difficult. Again, like that dumb album Wyatt likes, the Ziggurat Constructory or whatever the fuck. Like, it doesn't need to be like complex to be good, but you need to be able to put a little bit of effort into something.
Just a little bit. That's the thing. It's like
basic fucking level of effort into like, and I think that's what was frustrating Chase over the level of the show. And I think you can feel it through the show's progression. Like, there was a reaction to season 4, and I actually was on the negative side of season 4 because it ends with the Tony and Carmela breakup, which is actually heartbreaking. It's the first episode of the show that goes over an hour, and like, that's probably the most emotionally raw season because it also has the Ralphie material, which you can probably read as a comment on the nihilism of the audience. Right. Oh, you violent mafioso? Okay.
Right. Okay. All right. But no, yeah.
But yeah, so I was like, oh, this is boring. We're just watching a dude fight with his wife for an hour. Like, what the fuck? And so then he gives you season 5, which is almost a self-contained mafia story with Tony Blendetto, Steve Buscemi. And it's perfectly done. Like, and I feel like that was his last, and I'm sure that was still criticized at the time. I don't remember. I was working at the time and also in college, so I wasn't really in tune to like the internet reaction to it. I wasn't tuned to the internet reaction to the very end, and also the personal reaction, like I said, from my family. And I feel like, yeah, like people were just throwing it back at him that you're not giving us the show we want. like he kept trying to say what he wanted to say, and people were just throwing back at him. You're not giving us what we want. You're not giving us the show we expected.
Yeah, that's not giving. I know the audience always in a lot of shows, movies, fandoms, whatever. This is what I fucking hate about Star Wars. Anytime anything happens that's like mildly unconventional,
You're ruining my childhood.
Right? Exactly. It's like, how about you grow up?
Right. Like I've seen the only one of the new Star Wars movies I've seen in full is the second new one where spoiler alert, Luke Skywalker dies. That's the only good one of the ones I've seen, and that's the one they all hate.
Right. No, I agree. That is the best one of the new three.
I mean, I guess true to the original trilogy, the second one's the best.
Yeah. I mean, people hated Empire when it came out, though, so I guess it's not.
Ruining 3 years ago. Why is he his father, man?
Yeah,
leave the memories alone.
God, that's the people talk about how much they hate the Marvel fandom, and like, yeah, that's trash. But also, the superhero fandom in general, like, at least I can kind of get it because, like, I do think that there are like, I can understand, like, if you really, but you don't hear this from all the, like, when I was the superheroes that I really fucked with when I was younger were like Spider-Man and Batman. Those were like the only good ones that like I really liked, and like, because I mean, Batman I wouldn't call relatable, but Spider-Man was like relatable.
You weren't a millionaire who's for going to
who hates everyone in life.
Who has a butler who will get him everything.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Batman, though, the thing about Batman is, like, the whole point is that he's ridiculous. People are like, oh, Batman's so awesome. It's like, well, no, he's sad and pathetic. That's the point.
He's also kind of like a fashy bitch. Like, he's kind of like the epitome of, like, libertarian authoritarianism.
Yeah, he just beats up random fucking people, and it's like, I have to protect the city. It's like, well, no, you don't.
Maybe cops should have Batman things on their cars instead of Punisher things on their cars.
Yeah, true. Yeah, Batman definitely not a cab. So, definitely not. You're not going to see that in a Batman.
All bats are bitches. That's the episode title. All bats are bitches.
Oh God.
All right, moving on. So we.
I guess the
lower than a cop is a bat, but you know what's a good cop? Lester Freeman. And you know what's a good show? The Wire.
God, The Wire, good show. Never heard of it.
Yeah, so it's a show about a teacher, Mr. P.
It's Mr. P. Hey, yo, Mr. P. Can I go to the bathroom? He's like, yeah, fine, go. They're all yelling and screaming, standing on top of desks. Kids are fighting each other.
Yeah, that's the 80s sitcom, Where You At, Mr. P. I also just thought of a Where's Waldo spinoff, Where's Wallace?
Mr. P, can I break into your car?
Okay, so just to get it out of the way, because I listened to a podcast about this recently, is The Wire propaganda?
No. It's my...
But what about David Simon being a dickhead?
David Simon being a dickhead, very valid point.
And if you've actually read Homicide ends with literal fan fiction about how these homicide detectives are badasses who will catch you. And if you read up about the people he writes about, they've like almost all had like charges filed against them for being horrible cops who violate people's civil rights. So it's like, wow, I like that book and I like that show, but damn, Jay Leno
I think
really is a piece of shit.
I guess my take to say is that I think no matter what plenty of creators have gone on to be shitheads or were shitheads at the time of making things. And I think, regardless of what... God,
I guess...
regardless of the actual medium, to me, speaks for itself in the sense that I don't think it can be propaganda because all the cops in the show, for the most part, are either have to, stab somebody's back to rise up in the ranks, and they have to do terrible shit to the community to like get to where they want to be, or they're doing terrible shit to people in the community as a result of their position, or they're fucking McNulty and they're huge assholes and self-absorbed pricks.
Well, I think the argument for it being propaganda is that it ultimately argues that there's a function for police to exist, like good police. Like it argues good police.
Yeah, it gives you
As
the Lester
opposed
Freeman.
to-
It gives you the Lester Freeman.
Right. It gives you Lester being saintly, and like Lester never fucks up. Like even season 5, he's the no.
Yeah, he fucks up. Yeah.
McNulty's bullshit.
He
Season
does.
5.
And he also, in the first couple seasons, Lester has kind of acknowledged that he's given up a long time ago. He does.
I think it's anti-system, but I don't think it's anti-cop.
That's fair. That's fair. But it's anti-system as being the reason for policing the way it is. It's the inefficiency and the corruptness of corruptness.
I think it's definitely commenting on systemic rot. It's not propaganda in the same way that like Law and Order is, nor Brooklyn Nine-Nine, where Brooklyn Nine-Nine is a show where I can like appreciate how it's like comedically structured, but ultimately is problematic in that it makes like cops into figures of fun, where it's like, oh, let's watch Andy Samberg violate this guy's civil rights, but it's fun.
Right.
He's Andy Samberg, ha ha ha. He just violated that guy's civil rights.
What do you think about The Shield then, and how it?
I never liked The Shield. Actually, I thought it was kind of a cheap ripoff of HBO stuff. I thought that it got better as it went from what I saw of it, but I never committed too much time to it. I kind of put it in the same box as Dexter, where it was like people watched this just for the visceral thrill, and there were some good performances on it, but ultimately it was kind of cheap entertainment.
I don't think The Shield...
Well, The Shield's not making systemic criticisms the way...
No, oh God, no.
And I think The Shield is like... I don't think The Shield's 24 in terms of actual apologism, but...
it kind of hates a lot of the cops in the show. On
a surface level. I feel like it's also like... But, these dudes are bad too,
It definitely has a lot of that. Way more than The Wire. The Wire never... Like, the Wire never wags its finger at you and says, yeah, Marlowe's bad too. It doesn't have to.
Right. Like The Wire is a neutral perspective for the most part, except for, and when The Wire is openly telling you someone's bad, it's like Milnemo in season 4. By the way, I thought that was hilarious. It's like one of the few outwardly juvenile things Simon does is he names the guy in season 4 who replaces Daniels after a journalism professor or something, or like a newspaper boss who like suppressed all his stories. So the worst guy on the show is named after him.
It's named after him. It is quite juvenile, but it's pretty funny.
No, it's funny. And that guy is such an asshole, and he's good in his role. But yeah, I don't think The Shield is trying to do the same stuff. And at first I was just like, The Shield is just trash, but I'm kind of like indifferent to The Shield now. I have no desire to revisit it, but I think that for what it does, it's fine. Ultimately, it's not trying to comment on anything. I think as long as you don't take it as commentary, it's fine.
Yeah, I remember liking the show, but I didn't make it all the way through, so I don't know.
Like, I also don't remember it ever dextering it up and just like going completely off the rails. Bad writing, bad plotting, bad like. Yeah, I think it generally like stayed. It didn't go Sons of Anarchy or anything like south. So
yeah.
Okay, so second hard question about The Wire. Season 5, did it go south?
I like season 5. It's definitely not as good as the first 4 seasons. Not even close, you could argue. But I enjoy season 5. I think it's fun.
If season 5 was a season of any other show, it'd be one of the best seasons of anything.
Yeah, I think it
followed seasons 3 and seasons 2 through season 4 are 3 of the best seasons of any show ever, and I will defend season 2 to my death.
To be honest with you, I think 1 to 4 is a great. I love 1.
Okay, my arguments against 1 are that, like he said about it being a training exercise, I feel like there are clumsy moments in 1. Like,
I agree.
When they replay the thing at the very end of the pilot, there are like clumsy bits of dialogue. Like when they establish Presbeluski's character, it's a little heavy-handed. Like there's stuff that's not as graceful, but 2 through the end of 3 and 4 are the best 2 seasons of dramatic television I've ever seen. Period.
Yes. I'm with you. I think my argument for one is that there's something to be said for all those characters in that situation playing off each other, and like we never get that again in the show.
Fair, and it's
we never get those
origin story,
circumstances.
too.
Like
you also get
McNulty goes on the boat. Yeah, like McNulty ends up going on the boat, and like all this other they break up, and D'Angelo was in prison, all this shit. Like, so it doesn't like recapture. Like there's a magic to me of like that first season that it kind of. It's not my favorite season of the show. It's probably third or fourth, but there's just something about that season for me that like the circumstances all kind of line up and it really hooks you into the show.
I mean, it does hook you, and the thing about it is, it did take me to it. Like, I remember when it first started airing, I was confused. Like, because it started airing after, I believe, the end of season 3 of The Sopranos with the Jackie Jr. episode, and Anthony Jr. maybe going to military school and all that. And I forget, I think Sopranos and 6 Feet Under alternated at that point, so there was no 6 Feet Under. So it started with the McNulty fucks everything up, Snot Boogie, all that stuff.
Snot Boogie,
and,
yeah.
I mean, it's America,
It's America, yeah. So why do they call him Snot Boogie? I love it. They're like, so wait a minute. You telling me that you let Snot Boogie play every week, even though he's going to steal from you? Got to,
America, dude.
Got to.
Gotta let him play.
And that intro theme song is absolutely flames. Just the way it comes in.
Also, obligatory controversial statement for my RYM persona. Only good thing Tom Waits ever did. Season 2 theme.
Yeah, I mean, that's my favorite thing he's ever done.
Only good thing he's ever done.
I know. I'm also not like a Tom Waits guy, really. I think a lot of his stuff is like, it's cool. It's like fine. But I don't, I don't love him. I don't hate him. I know you. I know you are a hater, a proud hater.
Yeah, I'm not changing.
Yeah, and that's fine. I'm not going to argue with you. I don't have enough of an opinion to argue with you.
I mean, I've listened to 2 whole albums, and they're both garbage. And I've heard Tom Sharpling tell stories about him eating in actual diners and being mean to waitresses and not tipping them, which is like...
Sounds about right.
You're like a rich pretend hobo. That's horrible, dude. But
rich pretend hobo.
But yeah, so the thing about Wire Season 1 is that it does take a little bit to get going, but it's like a good book in that way. He's establishing his characters. That's why it's not the best season, but it's essential. Like, I would never recommend anybody do anything but start from the beginning. And I would never recommend that anybody skip Season 5 either. Like, I don't think that it's I've heard criticisms that it kind of tacks on a little bit of a redemptive arc in a way. I guess people are mainly talking about Bubbles there.
Mm-hmm. I think Bubbles deserves the arc.
Well, I think that's a testament to how the actor fleshes out his character, and no one else on the show has a redemptive arc, so give somebody something. Because literally the point of the finale is that everybody else falls into the same cycle, so let one person fucking break out of it.
Right, and that's the thing. It's like that. We're gonna talk about this. This ending, the ending montage in season 5, the last 5 minutes, that montage is one of my favorite things in television history, easily.
I mean, you can argue between that and the 6 Feet Under one for all times. I mean, the argument against the 6 Feet Under one is that it's technically like an ad for an electric car, also the Sia song on top of it. Arguably, but the Sia song works. But so there's arguments against that one, but they're both like, okay, so my wife has started watching Grey's Anatomy again, which is a show that she's watching it from the first season. And it's interesting to watch it from the first season because this was in like 2007, I believe. And you can see how it really influenced television from there on out, because every show has this fucking montage at the end. Like, every show is now ending like The Wire and 6 Feet Under ended their series, where it's like characters learn things and like music plays. Like, that's how episodes end. That's how series are supposed to end. Like, you're right about people not knowing how to consume art anymore because now they want a whole series in an episode.
Yeah, people don't have the attention spans for 12 or 10 60-minute episodes.
Right. That's kind of sad. Like, you can't devote, the Lord only asks an hour a week. You go to church.
Yeah, oof, yeah. Yeah. Yikes.
But my point being is that this has become like a formulaic thing, but when these two shows did it, it was artful. Sopranos finale is a completely whole different thing. And that was like a perfect use of, as LP would say, to tie it back to a previous episode, a beautiful use of negative space.
Mm.
But
bars. No, I think, and like I said, so the 5th season of The Wire, I still love. I'll still defend it. Like, it's not.
It's a little heavy-handed in a way that the show.
Yeah.
And it's a little out of date, I guess. It's hard. It's easier to say it's out of date now, knowing what we know about print media dying. But think about when David Simon wrote that. And also, I think there was a time gap between the writing and filming and when it aired. It aired in 2008, I believe. I'm pretty sure he wrote and filmed it in like 2006. And I think there was like a media jump at that point. Like, we got into the blog era just as he was filming something about print media stuff.
Yeah, I think
it felt a little instantly dated in that regard.
I think it's okay for the time. Obviously, looking back at The Wire now, I mean, it's like a period piece that still holds like a rings true. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, I feel like the commentary on dishonest journalism doesn't need to be like 100% accurate over time in terms of the medium. It's just what he's saying about journalists being liars holds true regardless of the medium they're using to lie.
Absolutely, and that's my field. I can attest to that. It is remarkably easy to lie in journalism, even though it's drilled in your head not to do so.
And I think that partially what he was commenting on, given when it dropped, it was in 2008, but when he wrote it, was, I'm sure, about Iraq. And he also wrote Generation Kill around the same time, too. So it's just about media lies, and that's just gotten worse. Like, think about the glut of media people were telling us about this. Media is just lying worse. Now, at this point, there is no reality. What you don't like, it's fake news.
Oof. Yeah. It's just if you hate it, if you're not into it, if it speaks to something that you don't agree with, it must be fake.
Right. Shout out to the however many people. I think it's like 30,000, but on InfoWars they told me it was 3 million marching on Washington to stop the steal right now because they're mad that their racist didn't beat the other racist. Damn.
Damn.
Fake news, bro. Fake news. You hate to see it.
You hate to see it. You just things you hate to see, and it's just that a giant circle with that. So I guess we can go through like what are some of your favorite moments throughout the show.
I mean, obviously, like we could just do Omar favorite moments.
God, we could do that forever.
I mean, him on the stand with Levy, where it's like the briefcase versus where he calls him out, like, you got the briefcase, I got the gun.
I mean, he's wearing the clip-on tie that's not clipped on right.
When he calls Bird out.
Dude, that is so funny. That whole scene is so good. Oh my gosh.
Also, you're talking about, is it season 5 or whatever, when they have the Omar coming scene where people just drop their shit as opposed to getting robbed?
Yeah. Oh my god, that's a great one. Also, I like the scene of God, what's the scene? Oh no, the Snoop buys a nail gun. That's one of my favorites too.
Oh yeah, where she got, like, I didn't understand a word she just said.
No, the guy's like, oh yeah, that's like really great. She's like, oh, so you mean he doesn't have any kickback, right?
Oh.
Like, yeah, no kickback. And he's like, great, all right, cool. And then she goes into the car and she's breaking down the whole model, and the guy's like, are we good? He's like, oh hell yeah, we're good. We're about to go kill this guy.
I remember that now. Oh yeah, there's some scene where Snoop's like talking to somebody in Baltimore about like, oh, that go-go shit you listen to, and then shoots him right in the fucking head.
Oh my god. Well, also an early season episode, that was later season, but an early season episode of just McNulty and fucking what is it? McNulty and Bunker in the kitchen. They're just like, fuck.
Oh yeah,
Fucking fuck.
Oh yeah, that's like apparently like a straight minute and a half of the lines are nothing but fuck repeated over and over.
Yeah, that's true. That is. It's so smart because you're putting it together also alongside them. But also you're like, am I putting it together? Am I sure this is right? Yeah.
When Bunk sits next to Omar on the bench.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. That's so good.
I think that's the only scene they have together, by the way. Like just the two of those.
Yeah, no, you're right. I think you're right. I'm trying to rack my brain for any. I mean, I'm the early season. I mean, they had the chess scene's great. You know,
it's not one scene, but the way they build the Bodhi and McNulty relationship in season 4, and then they fucking break your goddamn soul in the finale.
Yep. When Bodhi's talking about, I just got to get out of here. I just like,
I'm pretty sure that's the same episode as Where the Fuck is Wallace? Not Where the Fuck is Wallace, where the kid goes back to the group home.
Yes, Randy.
Randy goes back to the group home and gets the shit beaten out of him in like the same 20 minutes. That is probably the most emotionally devastating. Like,
it's brutal because you're in his corner. You want to root for Randy.
Like that season, just the way it develops those kids, and yeah, like 3 and 4 in general, like I said, are the best 2 dramatic seasons of television I've ever seen. Like I didn't necessarily feel that way when I was watching them at first because I missed episodes, but when I binged it and just saw it, I had to watch it in like 2 nights straight, and it was just such a fucking cold water, like, wow.
Just, I mean, Bodhi literally like dying just on his corner. And earlier in the episode, he was just like, I'm a pawn, but I've always been a pawn, but I'm going to rise up. I'm going to make it out of this. I'm not going to be a pawn anymore. I'm going to be like a bishop or a rook or whatever he was saying. Like back to that chess analogy.
I think I mentioned this before on the show, or at least definitely mentioned it to you, is that somebody pointed out, and I think it was on a Guardian of all places comment thread about when they were doing a Wire watch, where it was like he moves like a pawn. He moves straight one block to another, but Michael moves diagonally like a bishop.
Yeah.
Which that feels intentional. With all the chess imagery in the show, like that comes back from the first season. So like the way they build Avon's character. When Avon comes back in season 5.
Yeah.
Like it's just a little cameo, but it's so fucking funny.
Also, when Michael says goodbye to Dookie. And oh god, Dookie's arc at the end too. Oh, it's so painful.
Like that's the thing, is this show got me to like the thing about like The Sopranos, I didn't care about anybody by the end. Not even Melfi, even though like Melfi had reasons you should care about her. No one in the Sopranos family, like Chase went out his way to make sure you didn't care about any of these people. You're like, they're terrible. You're terrible if you like them. 6 Feet Under, it's debatable. Like, they have good characteristics. They have bad characteristics. They act terribly over the course of the show. The Wire, there are people who are just destroyed by their circumstances and have no control over it. And you watch them get destroyed.
Yeah.
I think that's what makes it by far the most powerful of the shows. And the most enduring. Because these systems still exist.
Still. And they'll still get you. Like, and it's the whole point. The show is such a cyclical show. Like, the world is going to keep turning in the end, whether you're alive or not.
I mean, yeah, that's the message of the last episode, is one person turning over into the next. Like, the one person fills the role the last person did.
Yeah.
No longer filling. And
no show has that much empathy while also saying that the world has no empathy at all.
It's a cynical show that somehow still has a heart. And you can level any number of criticisms at it, that it's too sympathetic to cops, that it doesn't write enough roles for women, which it doesn't necessarily. I think that he tried to remedy that with Eileen. I think that he wrote a great role for a black lesbian woman of color. Black lesbian. That is the dumbest thing I've ever fucking said on this show. And
it's a high bar.
Believes it, but it's really bad. But, you know, he wrote a role for a black lesbian as a lead, as a cop, which certainly wasn't being written anywhere else. Like, so there are definite criticisms of The Wire. It's not above criticism, but I think for what it tries to say and how it conveys it in an hourly drama format, it's the best dramatic show I've ever seen.
Yeah, and the scene of Avon and Stringer on the roof in season 3 when they're talking about like their youth or whatever, and then String dies at the end of gets killed at the end of the episode. That's another.
Oh yeah, like season 3 is
great.
just one scene after that after another. Like fucking Muzone. Well, is Muzone and Omar season 3 or season 2 when they have the standoff?
Oh, I thought that was season 3.
I think it's season 3 because Muzone's introduced in season 2 and then he goes away and they call Muzone back. He's reading the newspaper.
Right, and then he's like, everyone's like kind of scared of him. Like, this guy's weird as fuck. Like, what? Like, who is this guy? Yeah, because then Muzone and Omar are like, all right, let's kill this guy. So
yeah, that's the cold open too. Is Muzone staring at Omar and like a straight up like Sergio Leone spaghetti Western standoff. And
yeah, just like these two guys that are just like
it does these things where it's like it marries like cop, like standard like TV cop procedural stuff to like when like that whole montage where with the Greek before Frank, has what happens to Frank. And like that's one of the best montages I've ever seen. Like the whole arc for like Ziggy. Like Ziggy's one of the most unlikable characters ever, but his arc is so sad. Like powerfully fucking sad.
Yeah. No, Ziggy's arc is gosh. I mean, just brutal. Also, what was the episode where you get a little light into Omar's like day-to-day routine? Like he gets some cereal.
A lot of cereal.
Yeah. Cereal, like Cheerios. He's like, y'all got the honey nut? It's like,
I think that might be season 1 because I think it's his boyfriend who ends up getting tortured with the cigarette.
Right, and that's when he leaves and he comes back and his boyfriend is killed or something like that. God, what a
if you get nothing else out of this episode, if you haven't watched The Wire, you either need to go and watch The Wire and then you can listen to this podcast, or you can't listen to this podcast. So
yeah, hopefully the former. We want
the former.
We want you to watch the show. Yeah,
it's a wonderful show. But we are living off borrowed time. This has been me and Caleb bullshitting for 2 hours. I hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you next time with something hopefully a little bit more of substance.
It ain't gonna never stop. 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 It ain't gonna never stop.
Time will tell. Time is yet to be conquered by man. But when the time is right, perhaps the greatest revelation of all time will dawn upon us.